Beaming across the counties of Essequibo, Demerara, and Berbice, this is Kaicho Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Kaicho Radio, the radio with a difference.
It is 13 hours 34 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. You're listening to us right here on Kaicho Radio, 99.1 FM in Demerara and Essequibo, 99.5 FM in the Berbice area, online at KaichoNewsOnline.com, via our Facebook page, Kaicho Radio, and of course via the MyTune app or the Radio Garden app, and of course streaming on YouTube at Kaicho Radio. It is the 15th day of June in the year 2020. And let me quickly take this opportunity to welcome you down through the COVID-19 and elections watch show. Of course, there's a lot to discuss this afternoon. I would not take up airtime, but quickly let me introduce you to today's host and co-host respectively, Dr. Yog Mahadeo and senior journalist of Kaicho News, Leonard Gildarie. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you. Take it away.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Joshua Van Seitman and our team down here at Kaicho Radio. Good day to all right across Guyana and wherever you're joining us from overseas. And of course, to my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo in your blue. I hope, sir, that is not reflective of your mood. Today is a very good day. Would you agree? It seems as if he doesn't agree. Okay, how you doing, Yog?
It is a very good day, Leonard, and this blue is reflective of the skies. It's reflective of goodness. It's reflective of, blessings.
Is it the baby blue?
Look, let's put it this way. It's the day. Look, D-Day is here. D-Day is here. The commission is going to meet in a couple minutes, Leonard. So we have to be buoyed by all the colors we can think possible. I try not to wear red or green or purple or orange or anything today.
But being the rebel that I am, I wanted a red and a green T-shirt, and I was strongly advised not to do that. We are in a very sensitive period here, Yog. But it is a very important day. It is June the 15th, Yog. It's June the 15th, 2020. It's more than 105. It's 105 days since elections, March the 2nd. And what is it that we have for the people of Guyana today? Well, it's very, very simple. Today is when GCOM meets to consider the report, that recount report, as was tendered by Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield. And also there's two other statements that would have come out today, in addition to what is being considered there. One is from CARICOM, the Caribbean community. You know, they would have sent a team of observers here to deal with the issue of observing the recount as it was ongoing. And that statement from CARICOM is very, very telling. I think many people would have seen it. Excerpts of it has been posted right across social media, and I'm going to come to you right away because we want to get right into it. Of course, we would have seen a statement not too long ago from the OS, Organization of American States, and it's very, very clear what it's saying. That the transitionary phase must be made right now. The recount results are spoken very clearly. So we want to examine these two statements as well as what is likely to happen today and timelines. We should be looking at timelines. We have our reporters who are gathered in front of the GCOM headquarters there in Kingston on High Street, and they're waiting. We could expect a break in our programming today, Yog, at Kaicho Radio, to bring you live updates from interviews from persons who might be coming in or going into the GCOM headquarters there, because there's a meeting of the commission today with the chairperson, Justice Retired Claudette Singh, and the 6 commissioners. Very critical meeting in terms of the whole scheme of things when it comes to elections 2020. That's one. 2, Yog, we'd also should not be put this on the back burner. Today is schools reopening for those exam students, and there is deep division. We've been told right now it continues based on our report from last week that not all parents would have sent their exam students to school. Some has turned up, some has turned up. So, Yog, we are going to be discussing that and that. So, I want to get straight into you. Good afternoon to everybody who's joined us. You have been very, very kind to us, very civil to us. Let's keep the conversation civil today. No cursing, no bad words in our commentaries on our Facebook page. We're being monitored, and we don't want to get blocked. So don't put us in a position like that. Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it mature. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, over to you, sir. There's a very critical statement by the Caribbean community today. Could you bring us up to date, the people of Guyana up to date as to what exactly that report is saying and what kind of impact that is likely to have on the deliberations today before the Guyana Elections Commission?
Thank you, Leonard. Are you hearing me clearly?
Very clearly, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, one and all. Today is very important in our history, of course, as Leonard, you just said. Today, the commission meets. They're going to consider the Lowenfield report. I just want to, I know everybody's interested in the CARICOM Observers report. So I'm just going to read to you some excerpts from this report. It says as follows. Let me quote. We are, however, of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box, and as a result, the three-person CARICOM observer team concludes that the recount results are completely acceptable. Another excerpt, excuse me. Many of the instances we witnessed can be explained by either the incompetence of some of the polling officers of the polling stations on March 2nd, 2020, and or the failure to give adequate training by GCOM to its staff on the varied possibilities which may have arisen at the level of the individual stations. So, Leonard, given those two things that I just read there, the CARICOM team has said it is their unshakable belief that the will of the electorate was expressed in the ballot box and the recount results are completely acceptable. Completely acceptable is their phrase, words being read directly from the report.
And Yog, I want to ask you directly because this is the meat of the matter now. Is CARICOM saying there that who has won?
No. CARICOM's role is not to say who has won. CARICOM's role was to observe the recount process. And I must say to you, Leonard, I have started to read the entire report of CARICOM, and I am amazed. This is an excellent report. It identifies everyone who was at fault, identifies every area that is at fault, and it plainly sets out what has to happen. Let me share one with you. There are some damaging statements here, Leonard. Look, I quote, the public utterances of some GCOM commissioners, political pundits, and politicians may have sounded an ominous tone for the 2020 elections with the partisan-driven and distorted narrative on migrant voting, phantom voting, and implied voter impersonation. That is a blatant but very harsh reflection of the truth, isn't it?
Well, one could conclude that.
Look, let me just repeat this. The partisan-driven and distorted narrative on migrant voting, phantom voting, and implied voter impersonation. We have to remember these words. This report is coming out from a group of persons who have observed these recounts the same way Lowenfield has observed these recounts as the CEO. Remember, Lowenfield is not one of the counting agents. Lowenfield took the same implied voter impersonation, the narrative on migrant voting, the narrative on phantom voting, and Lowenfield basically made a report, judge, jury, and executioner type of report. But here, I wish to repeat, with the partisan-driven and distorted narrative on migrant voting, phantom voting, and implied voter impersonation. Leonard, this report is an eye-opener. Let me tell you this. The report speaks of the order itself, you know. The report speaks of the order as follows. The order, which was issued a mere 2 days before the stated date for the start of the process, in a sense, used language that would ensure that the order had to be amended. So they have examined this recount from start to end. They have examined this recount from the construction of the order. They have examined this recount from the conduct of the people within the rooms. Mm-hmm. They have examined this recount from the attitude of people approaching them. I'm talking about attitude, and look, let me read this. Based on what we saw at the recount, it was clear that GCOM staff who manned the vast majority of the workstations which we observed were, for the most part, well trained in the basic procedural matters. However, it was also evident that there were varying degrees of efficiency and effectiveness of the staff. And before I allow you to interject there, Leonard, here is what it continues. During the first week of the recount process, the pace of the recount was extremely slow, sometimes excruciatingly so, primarily as a result of the following factors. And you know what's one? Number one, GCOM's elaborate and unnecessary checklist, a checklist which was unnecessarily excessively burdensome and which was suggestive of an audit rather than a recount. You have to remember that the order, the legislative document, speaks of a recount, not an audit. So these people have examined everything here, Leonard.
So I want to ask you, Yog, when you look at the tone and the language of this report, are you surprised?
No. Look, I have been an auditor. This is what you expect: professional language, and you expect them to call it the way they see it. And I'll tell you, they have not stopped short of, they have called out politicians from all sides. They have called out people from all sides, and they have named some of them. In one case, I must tell you this, in one case, some people might find this funny. I do not. I find this extremely offensive, not from the CARICOM side, but as a Guyanese. Here is this. The public statements, I'm quoting from the report, Leonard. Quote, the public statements of the Attorney General of Guyana on the validity of the recount, a comment which the team felt was a snub to CARICOM by the government's legal advisor. That is like a giant slap in the face there, Leonard.
I would like you to look into also some other criticisms, which I think I understand that is very harsh in how it lays out the language on some individuals and some groups. But Yog, while that is happening, we must pay attention to the OAS statement. There's a purported statement from the Organization of American States, which would have fielded a observation team to Guyana. And I want to read the ending of it, which is very, very important. I sent you a copy of it. In this case, the results published in the report of the Chief Elections Officer himself make it clear that the opposition PPPC has won the favor of the majority of Guyana's eligible voters. Their will must be respected. The OAS calls on the current administration of Guyana to begin the process of transition which will allow the legitimately elected government to take its place. It's saying very clearly who was won here.
Correct. But at the end of the day, APNO AFC is going to argue, and rightfully so,
that GCOM is the body.
Only the chairman can do that. Now, there are a couple of open areas that we have to be cognizant of. And that is, remember what Timothy Jonas said in room 592. While Article 177 of the Constitution says that the CEO must advise the chairman, and the chairman will make a declaration based on the CEO. It is widely believed, and when you look at the language of this OAS observer team, their report, you are seeing the language is clear that while APNO AFC has been pushing this thing, that it's Lowenfield's word that Claudette Singh must use, that Claudette Singh has no room to maneuver, no room to even think for her own, that she must use this guy's language and words. That is erroneous, because here it is that in this case, the world has witnessed the recount. The world has seen the recount. It is very open. It was for everyone to see. So I agree with you. The OS team has called it how they see it. And that statement you just read basically sets the tone for what should immediately start happening. Now, we are going to have some more song and dance. And if I may, I wish to say this, Leonard, we have to remember that Mr. Granger he made a very shocking statement to this nation. I'm shocked. I was absolutely stunned to hear Mr. Granger say, I did not see the SOPs. I saw a spreadsheet. I mean, you are the head of your list. You're hearing the entire world talking about those spreadsheets. You're hearing everybody crying down. You have spent $9 billion, and now you're spending additional millions because of that spreadsheet. And you, sir, still rely on a spreadsheet? How ridiculous. No wonder we are now in a $70 billion hole, because he obviously had been dependent on people to feed him spreadsheet information, and our economy is now in a logjam. I mean, I have to call it the way I see it. If Mr. Granger's statement is an example of how he runs this country, well, we now know why the country is where it is.
I thank you for that, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. If you're now joining us, this is Elections and COVID-19 Watch on Kaicho Radio 99.1, 99.5, and let us bring you up to date to why today is such a very important day. The recount has laid June the 13th as the day when the report of Chief Elections Officer Kit Lowenfield was supposed to be tendered. He has done so. That was done on Saturday, June the 13th. June the 16th, tomorrow, is when the Guyana Elections Commission would have to make a declaration. That's the chairperson with regards to the winner of the election. And so we're expecting that it could happen today, but we're more likely veering for tomorrow. Yog, what is happening today with the Guyana Elections Commission? What are they supposed? Have they started a meeting? Do we know?
They at 1:30, yes. So the meeting should have been on the way by now, and I'm sure. Look, it's D-Day. It's 1 day more to go. So let's have some patience and let's wait. Leonard, you asked me a couple of minutes ago about whether the report identifies, the persons and so forth responsible. And let me read to you this. I think it's in page 58 of the report. And I quote, "The team observes the antics." These are strong words, Leonard.
Antics.
Yes, the team observes the antics of the political operatives from both within the commission and from the political parties, as they all attempted, traditional and new, to harness the media and their political capital for their own narrow and selfish political purposes. So let's talk about calling it the way you see it. This is extremely, plain, and it has said it exactly as it is. Leonard, if I may, I just want to remind viewers and listeners of the extremely transparent process of these elections, and of the recount. Many people don't know, and the CARICOM report sets it out. For transparency purpose, so all this talk about bogus ballots, let me remind everybody what happened at the recount. The ballots were first scanned to ensure that they had the watermark. Then they were placed on the scanner and projected. Each ballot would have been projected to a 65-inch television screen for the benefit of the counting agents and for observers in the counting station. And a second official recorded each announced vote for the respective party list of candidates for both the general and regional elections, which were recounted separately. So there were issues and transparency in terms of the processes. But here's this: we are of the firm opinion that the decision to insist, I said this before, to insist on an elaborate checklist for the recount was a questionable one. Indeed, a bad decision which contributed to the lengthy and unreasonable length of time to recount the ballots. And we have concluded that the delay was deliberately built into the system.
Very, very strong words.
Very strong words, Leonard. Very strong words. Now hear this. Hear this. The level of aggression displayed by some agents in the recount workstations leaves much to be desired. Indeed, the conduct displayed by some of the observed party agents at No AFC was totally unacceptable.
I want to put in this here, and those are some very, very strong statements, the deliberate, among other things. Yog, I'm looking here, I'm thinking in my head, all opposition parties, CARICOM leaders, US leaders from Congress, local bodies, private sector, observers, etc. Those persons, representatives are coming out and say, look, something is wrong. The recount has basically set the will of the people. Therefore, move on. Let's get it over with and done. I want to ask you, who is coming out in defense, or who's coming out and say that there is something that was wrong with the March 2nd elections other than the coalition? Have you seen anything like that?
I'm sorry, you broke up there, Leonard.
My apologies. Have we seen anybody coming out in defense of the coalition, or taking the line that the coalition has taken with regards to something was wrong with the March 2nd elections and afterwards? Because when you look at the entire everybody who's been coming out in favor and saying that, look, everything was above board, the count was okay, the recount basically verified or corroborated what the count would have said, and all opposition parties, CARICOM leaders, US leaders, local bodies have all come out and said the same thing. I'm asking you if you're aware of anybody who has come out and say, look, coalition, I stand with you in this, very clearly, and said to the Guyanese people that.
Not one. Not one international or regional body. You get some one-man organizations all around the world that would probably. It's like when the Department of Political Information congratulated the president for his 5th year in office. Even that so-called memorable occasion was not. There was no congratulation from any international bodies. Nobody has stood by their side. In fact, this report is telling us why, Leonard. This report is telling us what the world has been seeing. This is not Guyanese people talking and bad-mouthing ourselves, and probably this is why this thing is so hard to swallow. This is what the world thinks of us. Look, Leonard, how else can I describe this? Look at this. The numerous requests for information on serial numbers were so bizarre that on one observed occasion, an APNO AFC agent was prepared to query serial numbers on the OLE in a workstation where no one had voted.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is bizarre. The observer team says the team viewed much of the exercise as a fishing expedition designed to gather data for a possible election petition, and which result in considerable time being wasted during the recount. I mean, Leonard, this thing, I don't know. Look, I was stunned to hear the broadside attacks of Harman against the CARICOM leaders, but I was flabbergasted. I was beyond being stunned when Granger came out and endorsed those statements made by Harman. Now, I can tell you, you can foresee the next game plan. The next game plan is they're going to say, well, these Mercury probably paid for these three. The next game plan might be somebody is going to bring out some video of somebody in some compromising position or taking a dinner 10 years ago with some foreign leader. You know how it's going to happen. But the narrative will be, or could be, that you cannot trust this report. The narrative will certainly be, though, that it is Claudette Singh that has to make the decision, and so let's wait. Well, guess what? The meeting is on the way. So that decision will come very, very, very soon.
Do we expect that decision today, Yog, from your knowledge of what this deliberation, the contemplations that are taking place? Are we likely, the Guyanese people, likely to see a declaration today?
I don't see why not. I think we can. If they are meeting today, the only reason they would not give a declaration today is if they think having met today does not answer any of the peculiar questions, and if the chairman feels that she needs to consider some things for it. I mean, the way I see what's happening there, I think Mr. Alexander at this moment, I got to be careful how I'm wording this so they don't feel that I have a camera in the room, right? But I rather dare say that I suspect that at this moment, Mr. Alexander is moving a motion requesting that the commission adopts Lowenfield's report and declare these elections without having a credible a result. I rather suspect the chairman would have to now say, okay, that motion, let's put it to a vote. And so it will be 3 persons voting to support Alexander and 3 persons against. The chairman will have to take some time to make a decision. I don't know whether the chairman, based on what we have seen of her, whether she makes an immediate decision. So that might be the only problem, that the chairman might want to ensure that she considers everything possible before she makes her casting vote.
So Guyana is at the edge of its seat, and we have our reporters there at the GCOM headquarters in Kingston, in front on the road there, waiting for somebody in authority maybe to come out and make statements, maybe the public relations officer, Yolanda Ward, or maybe even the commissions themselves, but they have a meeting ongoing. And Yog, in a very short while, because we don't want to stop the people from making their comments with regards to elections, it's a very critical day. When we look back in history, today will be, I'm not sure if it's a penultimate day before declaration or whether it will be the day. We will keep our fingers crossed. Anything can happen today. There is going to be many developments. And so, Yog, let's get down right into what is likely that contemplation. There is a report by Keith Lowenfield, the Chief Elections Officer. There's a report from CARICOM. What is likely, based on what we've been told, to be the state of play, other than that maybe there is a motion by Keith Lowenfield to do certain things? What are some of the other plays that is likely to be happening at the GCOM headquarters here?
Well, look, the truth is, Leonard, I think Mr. Alexander, and I do not mean this in any way disparaging to him. The man has, he has a master's degree in law. And so he will be reading through the language of various things in front of him. He will be moving that motion, I rather suspect. And I also rather suspect that he is going to remind the chairman that based on the language of the order, that the chairman is not obliged to consider the OAS report. Remember, the order says that the report has to be submitted.
The CARICOM report, you mean?
Sorry?
The CARICOM report.
The CARICOM report, yes. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things we're going to see. Look, as a people, we have seen all kinds of things for the past 105 days. D-Day is here. The end is near. What else can we see? We never thought that we would have seen some of the things we saw. And Leonard, let me repeat this. This is a report from international body. This is not a Guyanese report. They're saying, and let me, you mind if I read another paragraph, Leonard?
No, please, go ahead. Yog.
So in page 36 of the report, it reads as follows. The level of aggression displayed by some agents in the workstations leave much to be desired. Indeed, the conduct displayed by some of the observed party agents APNO AFC was totally unacceptable. It did not only cheapen the dignity of the recount exercise, but it contributed immensely to the atmosphere of intimidation experienced by some of the GCOM staff. The district supervisors had to be summoned to quell some untenable situations. Hear this, Leonard. The team observed many instances of blatant incivility on the part of APNO AFC agents, particularly in Region 4 workstations, which were acute during the first week of the national recount. Often, these emotional outbursts, loud shouts, arrogance, aggressive and dismissive attitude descended into shouts of "shut up," and on one occasion to personal insults and invectives, including one which alleged that a PPP civic party representation was a pedophile. I mean, all of that went on in the room, and no wonder they didn't want cameras, right? No wonder they didn't want cameras, but the report is telling it all.
Absolutely, Yog. And so, if you're now joining us, the Elections COVID-19 Watch on Kaicho Radio 99.1, 99.5. You can also get us on Kaicho Radio on Facebook, on YouTube, or Kaicho News online, and you click on the radio icon there and you're supposed to get it. But let us make it very clear that today is a very critical day in the history of Guyana. It's when the recount results is being considered by the Guyana Elections Commission. There's a critical meeting ongoing there in Kingston at the GCOM headquarters, and all Guyana are they focus on that. The Caribbean, they focus on that. The CARICOM has come out with a statement this morning, very critical, said the will of the people has been characterized by this, the results that has been coming out from the recount. The OAS has even been more blunt, and the OAS is saying that the chief elections officer himself makes it clear that the opposition PPPC has won the favor of the majority of the Guyana's eligible voters. Their will must be respected. The OAS calls on the current administration of Guyana to begin the process of transition, which will allow the legitimately elected government to take its place. Yog can't get it clearer than that. So I think we could go to our lines, Yog. If there's any other statements you want to make, and we may interrupt this program here because we have our reporters in front of GCOM in Kingston there, and we are waiting maybe some live updates, maybe some interviews taking place. They're very critical times. So if you want to call us, 226-7453, 226-7453, or 622-222, we're going to take calls on elections and COVID-19. Yog, yesterday I was driving on the East Bank Road. The rum shops were open. There are big crowds, lots of music playing. Guyana is back to normal. Nobody is implementing. Nobody is enforcing So it's a big thing. When the last time did you pass by a rum shop, Yog? Is it business as normal?
I don't.
I didn't say for you to
I've
stop in,
never.
Yog.
I don't drink, so I'm fine.
No. You gotta listen, Yog. I said when was the last time you passed by a rum shop? I didn't say for you to stop in. You gotta
That's the
keep-
point. I don't drink, so I don't. I don't pass by them.
No, but on these back, I counted about 5 rum shops open, very popular places, lots of cars, lots of music going on. So Guyana's back to normalcy, and so nobody, the police, the police are on the road stopping traffic, asking if you have your driver's license. If not, well, hands outstretched. I say no further. So I think there's a
Right.
caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You on the air?
Yeah, hi. How are you, both of you? How are you doing?
Pretty good, sir. Go ahead.
So Yog mentioned something just now that I need him to maybe expand on. He said that Granger only looked at the spreadsheets. That's assuming the man is not lying. He did look at the SOPs, and now he's lying that he didn't. You see? I think you need to consider that fact. He's not beyond lying. So why would you accept that whatever he says? Anyways, that's my comment. Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Yog, did the president lie or not?
The president would certainly have to answer. One of the things we know that happened in Guyana, or has happened in Guyana since probably the Barajagdeo presidencies, we have never really held these gentlemen accountable because the law doesn't probably allow us, or we're scared. Right? Guyanese, we're so scared many times of questioning these people. But I would certainly say that I was shocked at his choice of words, and for him to say that he endorsed, was the caller talking about Granger's statement with the SOPs?
Yes, I think he said that he would have had a look at the spreadsheets or something like that, and
Yes,
that's how he was
yes.
made his conclusions.
Well, I would say inherently, the president was probably, whether he repeated a lie, means that he endorsed a lie to repeat it. In other words, the president knew there was a problem with SOPs. The president heard, the president himself signed an agreement with the opposition leader to have a recount. The basis of the recount was that the SOPs of Region 4 created a problem with Mingo's declaration. And so the president knew that there was a problem. And for him to say he never saw the SOPs means that he either has been in La La Land or something. But for you to be the head administrator, for you to be the head of your list, knowing there's a hue and a cry about things that the people on your list are doing and not being mindful to check its veracity, it's worrying.
Absolutely. There's a caller online. 226-7453, 226-7453, or 6222222. You can WhatsApp us on that. Do not call us on the cell number. 6222222. WhatsApp, let us hear you. We're going to read it. But you could also call us on 226-7453. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You in the air?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I listen to your program. I'm on the radio.
Yes, sir. You're on the radio.
That I listen to your program since a couple of days up to last night now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm from Highborn, every school course.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's a very excellent program, and who caused all of these teams in Guyana, 105 days in Diliman, Guyana here. They will start even time to come, but they can't help it. Now, we have a brother by the name of Kishore Madai. He lives in Pomona, on the school course, and he voted in this same year, March 2nd, at the Pomona school, that is going to be the rural secondary school. And his son, the eldest son, voted, and his daughter voted too. Now, that's my brother died, and his son and his daughter gone overseas. Right in Highborn here, he got a by the name of Chanika, wife, and he got my cousin Bisunde too. There's certain people that are dead too. It's what really going on with these people there, man.
Well, good question. You're asking the right. I'm not so bright when you ask these questions, but it is a good question to ask on here.
Yes, and let me tell you something, sir. With all due respect, I respect all of you, and I respect everybody. You know, you have to respect yourself first, and then you will gain respect. But Mr. Granger, respect yourself, so you respect the Constitution. And who calls Guyana for this dilemma? They go to points bad before and then when they're dead, they can't get peace in the grave. These are Judas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear, and I want to say hello and a good day to people up in East Bank, Essequibo, and of course on the west coast of Demerara. Have a good day, folks. Yog, I'm not sure. You see many cases coming out now. People saying that statements that were made and that people were dead and so on. Not so. It's coming out. Those stories are coming out. But I don't think we should dwell too much on that. We have to pay attention to when we're going to do the forensic audit to come back. And there's a critical part, I think it is, on that report, I understand, that calls for an audit of this entire March the 2nd elections. Could you tell us a little about that, Yog?
Yes. Yes, there is indeed a very, very, Leonard, before I say that, you and I believe, were the first to call for a commission of inquiry into the entire GCOM, the secretariat, the commission itself, and the entire works of GCOM. We need to investigate what these people did with all of the money that we have given them this year and last year for these elections. And don't forget, every 5 years, well, in the case of Donald Ramatar's truncated presidency, the elections were held closer than 5 years. I think in the case of, was it Janet Jagan presidency, some other presidency, it was truncated again. So you see, Leonard, before I read that part to you, let me say this. The CARICOM Observer Team notes as follows, quote, GCOM was complicit. As a journalist, you know the strength of that word complicit, right? So this report says GCOM was complicit in the objections raised by APNO AFC agents as the information on the serial numbers were provided by the workstation staff on which APNO AFC based their objections. So they have called into question this GCOM itself. Now, here is what the report says. A political audit of GCOM, both the commission and its administrative arm, is urgently warranted. It therefore behooves whichever political party emerges victorious from these elections to initiate an immediate political audit, as in a very real sense, GCOM betrayed its obligations to behave impartially and independent in the best interest of integrity-based process, which did not favor any party or parties, whether in terms of operational or policy decision. Damning statements here, Leonard, on GCOM itself.
So let me see if I put this in layman terms, because, I think the normal man in the street, they might not really understand what you said here. So GCOM, there's a recount, and GCOM staffers decided that they're going to give information, which is supposed to be very, well, it's there, and they're going to cooperate with the coalition, and they're going to pass information about who voted, who did not vote, and everything to the coalition. And so in so doing would have given the advantage or would have allowed the coalition to do certain things?
So hold on, Leonard. So let me put it this way. So for example, in ballot box 6121, ballot box number 6121, what happened is APNO AFC stood up and said, we got 137 serial numbers. We want to query whether they voted or not. 137. And so when they call out those serial numbers, GCOM would now say ticked or unticked. When GCOM say, okay, 4 or 5 of the 137 were ticked, APNO AFC said, thank you, okay, we are now querying that 4 or 5. In other words, they have abused the process to drive their arguments. And remember, all of this is without any proof. All of this, it was a fishing expedition. If they caught a worm or they caught breeze or they caught anything, they grab onto it and say, okay, on this basis, as long as the 5 ticked, we're going to lodge a complaint. Complaint based on what? Oh, well, probably they migrated and they voted, or they're dead and they voted. And so what is also important to note is that Mr. David Granger, 2 days ago, this gentleman, 2 days ago, he made an amazing statement. Granger adopted what his party is saying, and Granger says that his party took note of the flaking off strategy, where you put 15, 20 ballots, you flake off 15 to 20 ballots in every box. Now, I want to put this in perspective. If the president of this country, Leonard, this is a damaging statement. If the president of this country, Leonard, is saying that 15 or 20 persons voted 2 times in each ballot station. Let me repeat, 15 or 20 persons voted 2 times in each ballot station. It means the president's agents have all been complicit. Today, I just want to say this to our Guyanese population. I don't care who win and who lose these elections. What I care about is Guyana has lost. Guyana has lost because a set of bigoted opportunists choose to want to steal and rape this nation so that they could stay in office. And you know what? We're all hating each other because of the Kool-Aid they're dishing out. Leonard, here is what has happened. When Mr. Granger, when the president of this country says flaking off took place, that's his phrase, eh? When he said that, let me tell you what happened. There are headmistresses, there are headmasters, there are school teachers. These are the people GCOM employed as polling clerks and polling officers and returning officers and deputy officers. GCOM employed a lot of our teachers, Leonard, and the president said they're all thieves. Mm-hmm. He said they were blind to 15 persons voting 2 times in a polling station. You know what's going to happen here? I am going to start a petition, and I want everybody to join me, that if that is so, let us jail, let us take them to court. I know one of the APNU people made an excuse. Well, the law doesn't allow you to take them to court. But fraud is fraud. And there are other sections of the law that will apply. And we're going to start a movement that is going to find every one of these people. If they're guilty, let us jail them. If they're not guilty, well, we're going to go to the next one who is guilty. Because it can be that the headmasters and administrators and teachers are right, and Lowenfield is also right. One of them got to be wrong. We have to find which one is wrong, and we got to jail them. And tonight, that will be one of the discussions we're going to have in room 592.
I look forward to that. Let's go straight to the front page of Kaichor News, Monday, June the 15th, 2020. ERC urges peace. That's the Ethnic Relations Commission. As nation awaits GCOM chair's pronouncement on elections, appeals for results to be respected. Granger denies that APNO FC colluded to rig elections. Doubles down on fault claims, says will provide report. Granger backs a Lowenfield report, says he did a remarkable job. Interesting. I'm going to ask you about that, Yog. Anok says coalition repeatedly lies to its supporters. Granger excludes critical media houses from press conference. This is something that came up very late last evening. We were told that the 3 biggest media houses, this is Kaichor News, Stabrook News, and Newsroom, was left out of a press conference that the president had at State House yesterday. We did not see a press invite at Kaichor News in our emails here. We were definitely left out, not a Kaichor News, not a Kaichor Radio, and definitely I saw Stabrook's editor-in-chief, Anand Prasad, saying that he was not invited to. He went to Facebook and he did that. These are worrying times, worrying things. Yog, somebody is asking So our apologies there. I think Yog has got knocked out there, but we are gonna be bringing you some calls there. If there's a caller online, let's go straight to the lines. 226-7453. Caller, you on the air. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
As you stated, today is D-Day. So it's not a day to say anything but told you so. So one of the things I'd like to point out that will start in that excerpt of what I saw from that statement is that they recommended a political audit be done on GCOM.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I have said for the longest while, even on this program. We have too many people in our country who are taking offices and still have their own personal convictions direct their office as opposed to what they're mandated to do in that office. All of us in Guyana from school growing up, we placed our hand across our chest and say, I pledge myself to honor always, and we went on the laws of Guyana and everything. And if we understand that, I could like Mr. Yog Mahadeo how much I want, but if I'm in a place to place a judgment and he was wrong, he was wrong. My liking of him has nothing to do with the act that he committed. Too many of us are taking offices in this country and having our personal views, whether political or religious, overriding the mandate of that office, and that is totally wrong. Secondly, as it relates to CARICOM and all of these nations, I can say for myself, I'm a very strong-headed person. And even if I thought I was right, if everybody on the other side is telling me that I'm wrong and I know I'm right, you know what I do? I'll concede, not because they say so, just to let them say, well, this will you say go on. How can I remain in government when everybody in the world is against me and telling me what they're going to do me? So why do I want to stay in office? I do not get that, and I do not understand that. And I personally don't care much about anybody in APNU or PPP. But I had great respect for Mr. Granger because I believed he was a man that when he said something and it was so. To say that you will accept what the GCOM chairman said, and then in your statement lately you implying like you know what she's going to say, is very, very surprising and shocking to me. Thirdly, when it comes to the media, I heard a lot of people talk about them buying Kaicho and everything. I don't buy Kaicho. I do not buy Kaicho or any paper for the truth. I find the truth for myself. I listen to the news and I listen to what everybody says, and I analyze for myself. People got to understand, you don't just listen to what people say. You analyze, so you don't blame a reporter or a newspaper. You look at all sides and you come up with your own conclusion. And I say Kaicho News to me is give a fair side. They don't give all the sides, but they give a fair side, and I am able to analyze. That's why I like Kaicho News and Kaicho Radio. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And I will repeat what my publisher said and what he's been saying all the time and what I have been saying. We don't have a horse or a dog or a cat in the race. We don't have a constituency. We have all Guyana to look out for, and we will continue to our mandate. You'll recall in 2015 or before that, we investigated the People's Progressive Party. We reported as it came up, as those stories came up. We reported on procurement practices. We reported on those deals, many deals, multi-million-dollar deals. And we did what we had to do. Come 2020, we continue doing what we were doing all the time. So nothing has changed. When the next government comes into place, whichever government that is, we will continue to do our job. So you could not, the publisher will say, well, if you don't want to buy the newspaper, that's okay. We will continue to do our job because we cater for all of Guyana. I think my colleague Yog, who was knocked out, Kevin Smith and the rest of the guys conspired to do that. They're smiling, but Yog, they always do that, man. They always do that.
Not Kevin's fault at all. Not Josh's fault at all. This is beyond.
Because they're smiling wickedly. They're smiling wickedly in the corner here. But let's get back straight to the line. There is a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. You're on the air, sir.
Good afternoon, Leonard.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You listening?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, last night I was listening to room 592.
Mm-hmm.
and with the appointment of Patterson.
That is
Right.
the former GCOM chair, yes.
Right. If he was illegally appointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how he gonna employ Lowenfield, Roxanne Myers, and then rest of the staff? They're not supposed to be illegal too. So if this new chairman go in, she's supposed to employ a new set of staff.
Mm-hmm.
That is my question, and I'm gonna listen to you off here.
Thank you very much, Jay Caller. Well, I could tell you that Lowenfield was back in the 2015 election, so it could not have been Patterson that employed him. With regards to Roxanne Myers, Yog, I think the history is there, it's written, but maybe you want to comment on that.
Well, Leonard, the Patterson, Lowenfield's appointment as CEO happened in this current setup. Happened in the current, under Patterson's watch, Lowenfield's appointment as CEO. He was there previously as an employee of GCOM, but now Patterson would have appointed him, and when he moved up, then the other good lady would have been appointed. So that should clear that up. But no, remember, sir, that if Leonard leaves his job as Kaichur News senior reporter or senior journalist, the people who reports to him will remain on the job. They're going to report to another senior who takes his place. GCOM's, the commission had every opportunity to assess and to take whatever action it could have taken against any of its employees, but they did not. What I found strange, Leonard, the caller has a point in the following angle. What I find strange is that GCOM saw what Mingo did, the commission that is. The commission aware of what Mingo did. The commission was aware of Lowenfield's preparation of a report using Mingo's figures, but the commission did nothing. Anyhow, look, we got a day more, 1 day more, and we can move on.
Well, let us wait and see what happens. Let's read some text that has been coming in to 6222222. All the APNU staff need to be audited. All accounts should be frozen. They can't do any withdrawals of transfer. They will get huge fines. The money will go back to the treasury, and then it's all for jail. Continue the good work, Kaichur News. I'm not sure whether we go after the staffers of APNU. How do we deal with something like this, Yog? Should we investigate the coalition staffers if it's found during the audit that, well, I'm not sure. The whole thing of auditing the APNU staffers representative there. What are your thoughts on that?
The entire commission would have to be reviewed and reviewed urgently. There are a couple of things we need to understand. And Leonard, I wish to call out both the PPP and the PNC in this stead. Here is something that we need to assess and assess very quickly. GCOM, we have to look at that voters list. We have to look at the commission and the composition of the commission. We have to look at the chairman. Whether Justice Retired Patterson would stay on, we don't know, but you have to look at the chairman. You have to look at the funding of the secretariat. You have to look at the employees of the secretariat. You have to look at the recruitment of polling agents and polling officers. In other words, I'm talking about to prepare for another election. There are a number of steps that has to happen. I would hope that the lessons we have learned in this election, 105 days long election, would want to supposition the party coming in power to put GCOM's reorganization and a public stakeholder discussion of GCOM as a priority. Because regardless of who says what, there has to be another election sooner or later. And you need to get the next one right. No more. We must know, Leonard, the next time around, if somebody comes if Mr. Gildarie emerges and say, I want to query these serial numbers, he must immediately be out of place. We have to get our act in order.
I want to ask you, maybe there's something off the beaten track, Yog. If you're using the recount figures and the March 2nd count, what do you think would go through? Let's assume that those figures are correct, and everybody's saying that it is. What do you think is going through the head of Irfan Ali, the presidential candidate of the People's Progressive Party, today, tomorrow, that you believe that you have won fairly, and that you're being thwarted at every step of the way? What do you think is going through his head?
Well, one has to ask what's going through. Look, I don't know. I can only imagine if I were in Mr. Granger's shoes or in Mr. Ali's shoes, what I'd be thinking at this moment. But what we do know is that both sides would have to immediately, Leonard, it's like when a batsman walks to the crease and you get bowled, you lose your wicket. What your coach tells you immediately, play the next game, play for the next game. This game is gone. I just want to say this though. This game is gone, but we're not going to make you forget it. We will assess, analyze. Let's hold those who took us down this road responsible. And when the next game starts, we will know exactly what to expect, Leonard. So to tell you what's in their mind, I can only imagine that the narrative, there has to be some new narrative coming out. And I rather suspect now, if not within the next 30 minutes, Apno AFC will be on the airways beating up CARICOM's report, saying they're out of place. And they would probably say, look, Ralph Gonzalez and their attitude and their comments mean this whole thing is balderdash. They're not going to put any weight to it.
Is there anybody else who haven't been beaten up as yet in this entire process?
Yeah, Leonard Gildarie.
No. I've been beaten up badly. You don't know that, man. You don't know the travails here, my friend. Good afternoon, gentlemen. The CARICOM report echoes the same as all other observant bodies, and the world did not see it in any different, except the PNC, APNO FC, Granger language and attitude have spoken volumes as that of a dictator. Those in GCOM that collaborated with the PNC, APNO FC to rig this election should be charged for treason. A very, very strong statement. Should anybody be charged with treason here? Yog, I know that the word treason has been mentioned several times along the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, treasonous charges are very, very, very serious. So it's something that we certainly have to address, whether, the penalty for fraud is treasonous or but the courts has to decide that. But certainly, look, I don't know if Mr. Mingo will ever live down his infamy, his shame. But Mr. Mingo, sir, wherever you are, you should man up and reveal the intellectual authors that made you do that and made your name take this negative turn in Guyana. Mr. Mingo needs to one day man up and reveal who the intellectual authors were. And yes, Leonard, one of the ways that we can close the door, maybe after the horse has bolted in terms of 2020 elections, but one of the ways we can close the door is to ensure that such stringent measures are in place. But of course, somebody will call and say, but you know what? You can have all the laws. We have laws in place. Guyana's election process is probably one of the best in the world. But if you have people who purposefully feel they can walk aside and they can thwart, if you have a president who comes out and say, I didn't see the SOPs, I'm taking a spreadsheet. If you have that kind of level of irresponsibility, then it means no process you have will be enough, Leonard. And that's the biggest worry.
Well, absolutely there, Yog. And let me tell you this. Somebody from Esquimalt is saying that we can't open our bars. I think they're responding to our statements not too long ago that it seems as if it's business as usual. Everybody opening the bar, going about the business. The traffic is very, very heavy on the road. I'm not sure where these people are going other than, you remember those initial days when the partial lockdown was announced and ordered by the Ministry of Health. the roads were empty. Today, it seems as if we've gone back prior to that with when it was a normal life. People going about doing the business all across the bars, everywhere else, and here you have it in Esquibo. It's being implemented, monitored by the authorities there, and so the bars can't open. So Esquibo is getting a different playing field from what is happening on the Region 4 Demerara area here. So this is something we have to continuously monitor, but it looks as if the authorities are not doing the work. There's a call online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air? Yes, good afternoon. You on the air?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Gildarie, to you and Leonard. Sorry.
Yes, yes, sir.
I believe the next election, whenever there is, anybody who wants to work with it, whether you're working for your party or for the government, state, which is GCOM, you have to sign a contract. And on this contract must be, you don't even need to go to court. Failing to carry out your duty, like seeing this go where it has to go, and you fail to do that without even having a trial, you're sentenced to 1 year in prison and $1 million fine. That's the only thing I think would keep people from, not people do the right thing. Because when you hear according to them, let me just check what they're saying is true. This didn't fine and this didn't there and that didn't there. If a man know he can get 1 year in jail for failing to do the right thing, a $1 billion fine, and he don't have to go to court and all them things from there straight to the jail, I think he or she go look at them. Because them ain't got nothing to tell me. Somebody or some people and get paid for do what they do. I from the road and I believe in law. Don't tell me you take training for a whole 6 months and a year. You know, it's not a heart surgery, you're going to do a brain surgery. When you finish, John got to sign here, you got to put them in the back. Do the right thing. 1 year jail and $1 million fine. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. And you know, Yog, that gentleman has raised a very important point. And let me tell you something. We seriously got to look back at the way we do things in Guyana. There's a disrespect for the law, for the laws of Guyana. You have somebody with maybe 2 joints get a couple of years, and you have somebody like Mingo. What should be the jail time? Or the people who would be committing or holding this country to the sword, and maybe would get a slap on the wrist or to go away and to sit in the farms or after this, and it would blow over. The next couple of years, very few people would remember it. I want to ask you if it's not something that we should be looking into, the way that we put 3 years maybe for a man who get caught with maybe 20 grams as against somebody who does this. How should we look into it?
Look, one of the good things I know, if I can come to the defense of the law in a little way, you know, the lawyers are going to do it in their own way. The law is always evolving. When I went to University of Guyana to start studying for my bachelor's degree, you know, you very much get to appreciate that they have a statement saying the law is a living thing. In other words, it looks towards evolving depending on what's happening in society. And surely, the next National Assembly, remember the National Assembly is the lawmaking body. That is one thing we have to remember. The people who sit in Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, they make laws, right? And so the next National Assembly will be empowered to make or recommend such laws and make recommendation for the legal draftsmen to put together such wording that can make such changes, Leonard, in terms of these new offenses. Because to find an election agent or a GCOM person $30,000 and so forth nowadays, give them all the money and all the land and everything we hear that some of them getting, it's horrendous. I mean, I would say the first thing I'm going to petition the next president to do is take back all the land from Mr. Well, I'm not going to call his name, but you know, it's amazing.
Yes, let's be.
What does a person do with 200-acre land? Oh my God! What can you do with it?
You could take a 4x4, one of those ATVs, and you could ride it through it. I don't know. Let's be positive. We are on the cusp of a bright new chapter of Guyana's history with folks who have a history of successful economic management. If the chairwoman says otherwise, we need immediate sanctions and intervention from external powers before this ends. I can't use this word here. It's going to be too bad. But there's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie and Dr. Yog.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
I certainly agree with the caller who called for the jail and so on.
Yes.
I also want to say that if they were calling, if the APNO FC were calling for fresh election, and we have a man like the CEO, I'm demanding his removal. I don't feel that we will ever have a fair election again if we do not remove some persons from GCOM, because we spend a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of pain to people in this country. And I fully support the caller. I support the CARICOM team. I support the whole world. Everybody cannot be wrong. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Jim. Tthank you very much, Jim, ma'am. Yog?
Well said. Well said. And I let's pause for a minute, Leonard, to say this. Whether they're listening or not, the ladies and gentlemen who put together, first of all, this CARICOM Observer mission, and the team members, the 3-man team members of the CARICOM Observer team, we are so thankful of the work you did. Leonard, we got to remember these people left their homes and had to spend all of these days in Guyana under really, really terrible conditions to give them COVID-19. They can't talk to anyone. If they mistake and speak to someone, it could be deemed to be politically, disparaging. If they smile with someone, thank God everybody had to wear masks, so you couldn't know if they're smiling or not. But can you imagine? They had to be like in a straitjacket. Hats off to these 3 from CARICOM Observer team that were here in Guyana. I think, the next government should really give these people, if not the highest, among the highest national award that this country has, needs to go to these 3 persons from the CARICOM Observer team.
And I'm a little worried about CARICOM and this whole situation that could be evolving if the situation does not resolve tomorrow. We have CARICOM headquarters here, and it's very clear what CARICOM is saying. Although they haven't come out, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to make the conclusions. But the OAS, Organization of American States, which would have fielded an observation team to Guyana, in this case, and you got to read it. Let me remind you of what is said here. In this case, the results published in the report of the chief elections officer himself makes it clear that the opposition PPPC has won the favor of the majority of Guyana's eligible voters. Their will must be respected. The OAS calls on the current administration of Guyana to begin the process of transition. Let me repeat that: to begin the process of transition, which will allow the legitimately elected government to take its place. So there you have it, Yog. And so this is Elections COVID-19 Watch. Kaichor Radio 99.1, 99.5. You can also get us on Kaichor Radio on Facebook, on YouTube, or go online, Kaichor News Online. Yog, for the sake of those persons who may have missed it, that CARICOM report this morning, which may or may not be considered by GCOM, in a synopsis, what did it say? For somebody who would have read it.
It basically says that the GCOM commissioners were complicit. Mm-hmm. It called out the GCOM commissioners. It called out APNO AFC agents in the recount process for their behavior, disgraceful behavior. It does say, and I wish to, Leonard, I wish to ensure that we can quote them for what they said. But it does say that the recount process is over and that they stand by the results out of the recount. In other words, look, the truth is that the PPPC has won these elections, and it doesn't matter who want to turn it, twist it, do whatever they want. It is what it is. It is what it is, and there is no turning back from that. Now, I don't know given what Mr. David Granger said yesterday, what would be his position now, having this report in front of him? I am hoping that the president is not given a spreadsheet that represents this report. Instead, he's given the report itself. I say that in a bit of a jest, Leonard, but anything is possible, because here is what OAS statement that you read earlier. One of the sentences in the OAS statements reads as follows: while the CEO's approach to his report is therefore disappointing, it is not unexpected.
It's not unexpected.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people have seen this and seen it coming. And so that is something that we got to ensure that we continue to talk about, because they saw it coming. But, you and I were in here hoping, everybody's saying, well, Lowenfield will do the right thing. Lowenfield will do the right thing. Well, he did the right thing for some people, not for the country.
Well, it's going to be some very tough days ahead for some people in this country, and let's see how it goes. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm just wondering whether the legislation that put the GCOM commission in place, whether that ever considered non-nationals to be appointed to that commission. And because of presently now, people in Guyana have lost, faith in these people. And maybe the political parties are still to have a say, but let's say in the next makeup, we have 4 Guyanese and maybe 3 non-nationals on that. Maybe the like how it is now, the APNU side appoint 2, the PPP side appoint 2, and you have 3 others from somewhere else. Still protects our local interests, with a majority of 4, and maybe that might be a more workable thing. I don't know how you gentlemen have a look at that.
Well, all right. So we could answer it off here?
Maybe on here that will be fine.
Yog, you want to take a shot at that?
Yes. Caller, there's 2 ways we have to look at that. If you have non-nationals in charge of your elections or playing a major role in your elections, then there will also be the accusation as to who's buying them out. There's also the accusation of who's paying more money. Already we have seen that in 2019, the PPP contracted Mercury to lobby, to talk to all the politicians overseas. They paid them $34 million Guyana dollars. And in 2020, APNU AFC contracted JJ and B LLC for $90 million. So it's like they're measuring to see who's bigger in terms of the amount of money they're paying. But when you put overseas people to run your process, you get into all kinds of questions. Whose interest would they really look after? Would they look after their country's interest or Guyana's interest? Now, I know that is not a perfect answer, because that's the same question we have here now. Whose interests are those 6 commissioners looking after? But the observer statement makes some recommendation, Leonard, and I'm hoping that one of these nights in room 592, we will look at a suggestion as to how a newly constituted GCOM can be made up, and who can join that body and how it can go. I want to just use that caller statement to make another comparison. Ladies and gentlemen, look, one of the reasons I have been so outspoken, 3 years, 4 years now. In fact, 6 years ago, I made the first statement, and I repeated it when I wrote that letter to Stabroek News that made everything fall apart 3-4 years ago, when Greenwich was acting PM. And I said, how can you have a foreigner act as prime minister for this country? How can you have a foreigner sit in our National Assembly? A lot of people don't like what I say, but Leonard, here's the truth. If, let us just say, United States has a problem with Guyana, and they choose to embrace Venezuela over Guyana, and the National Assembly has members that are dual citizens in the United States, do you think those people are going to take Guyana's position or they're going to allow the United States to do what they want because the United States choose Venezuela. When you're talking about geopolitics and you're talking about the challenges that faces different countries, this is why the law would have been in place that, you need to be a non-dual citizen. You need to be only one citizenship, and that is of Guyana, to be in the National Assembly. Both PPP and the PNC, and in these recent years, APNU AFC, has purposefully, knowingly thwarted those pieces of legislation so that they could get their buddies and friends into the National Assembly.
Yes, thank you. So somebody is calling for you. They're recommending you to be the next chairman or CEO. Well, let me see. Let me get it back. I'm gonna try to get it back. Okay, Dr. Yog Mahadeo for the Chief Elections Officer. What do you think? If somebody asks you for it, you take it?
We're going to answer all questions about you and I in some other session, not today.
Question for you, Yog. What happens if Madam Chair suddenly falls ill and unable to perform her duties? Who is our replacement? God bless you both and our brothers and sisters of Guyana.
I wouldn't even contemplate. I wouldn't contemplate anything there. I mean, it would be to contemplate a negative. At this stage, my prayers and thoughts are with the Madam Chairman as well as the 6 commissioners. Let's just be positive, and we can answer that question in the newly constituted GCOM day after tomorrow.
Yes. How we enforce the laws when the law enforcement unit is in alliance with the incumbent. Mingo is in contempt of the court, but out still walking. The question: who will enforce the law? Well, it's a little too early. It has to go through. He has to go through the due process. There's a caller online.
Well,
yeah.
Well, he may be in contempt of court. Well, the contempt of court case was withdrawn.
Yes.
There is a private fraud case that has been filed against him. So whenever that comes up to the court, I'm sure that will be dealt with.
Absolutely, there, Yoga. There's a caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're in the air. Could you? Yes, go ahead, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, ma'am. You sound very happy.
No, I'm not happy because I have a business and it can't function right now. One question I want to ask, since the 2nd of May, this election.
2nd of March.
2nd of March, sorry.
Yes.
How many years has Mr. Mingo got since he had fraud? Nobody can say that. Anybody can answer to that. Is he going to get at that sentence for the fraud he done?
Good question. That's it?
Yes, dear, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
And keep the good work going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, before we even talk about jail time, there has to be a process, maybe an investigation, audit, an inquiry, whatever you want to call it, similar to what we would have had with regards to those forensic audits or those audits that would have been issued or ordered by the coalition government in 2015-2016 area there. And based on that, recommendations would have to come out from that, and then maybe an investigation by the police. So there's a process before we could even say there's jail time or so. But there has to be an inquiry into what has transpired at GCOM. And I would say don't start at March the 2nd. Let's go before, because we'd have to look at preparations of GCOM. What does the law say? Did they get themselves ready? What happened on elections day? What happened afterwards? Was there a break-in of the regulations, or is that somebody just refused? Are the laws weak? Do we need to close the loopholes? Many things to consider there. I think, Yog, maybe you would want to...
Yes. I got a question here that came into me from another viewer who was asked. Well, the statement a viewer has written to me said that whatever we are saying here is nonsense. CARICOM has no place in Guyana, and CARICOM's report is verbiage. Guyana is a sovereign state, and we don't need to listen to CARICOM's report. So already the narrative has started, and I wish to publicly respond to that person who sent me that message. Sir, Mr. In fact, President David Granger said CARICOM is the most legitimate interlocutor in these elections. If you have a grouse with CARICOM, go talk to Mr. Granger.
Well, we need not to say anything further than that. There's a caller in line. Good afternoon, caller. I think we lost that. In the meantime, Yog, this evening, room 592, I know that it has been very hot the last couple of nights. Lots of debate. There's several scenarios. We had Timothy Jonas last evening, Nicholas Boyer. We also would have had Jerry Gavaya, private sector as well as a political party. What are we expecting this evening?
We want to look more into this report. We're trying to go into the fine print of this report to answer the questions that are outstanding from the CARICOM report. Don't forget that hopefully we know that by this evening, we would have known the outcome of today's GCOM meeting. The commission is in meeting presently, and we would know that outcome. And we'll do an assessment of that outcome tonight in room 592. Also tonight, I want to ask a few questions to colleagues that we have invited to join the panel. I'm not telling our viewers and listeners who they are. We have a nice panel put together tonight, but we want to discuss tonight the same question. Given Mr. Granger's statement that this fraud occurred at every ballot box in every ballot station with his flaking off, should we and could we take legal action against the headmistresses, against the polling officers, the people who work and employed by GCOM? And I also, Leonard, I would like to use this opportunity, as I will tonight, to call on those school teachers, to call on those ladies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen who manned those polling areas, polling districts. Step up, speak out, because you are going to go back to school and our children will be watching you and wondering if you are part of the flaking off operation that Mr. Granger is talking about. So the school teachers who are involved in polling day, you all need to speak out now. And probably if you want to, you can distance yourself with what the president said, or you can say that the president was right. But I'm making that public call, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Yo. 226-7453, 226-7453. Or you could call us on that. We want to hear from you, not only about elections 2020. We want to hear from you about your students returning to school, whether you've kept your students home, your children home. We want to hear what is happening in your area there. We want to hear from you, the views on the different issues affecting you when it comes to COVID-19 and as well as elections 2020. It's a very critical day today. GCOM, the Guyana Elections Commission, is meeting at the moment to consider a report of the Chief Elections Officer, Kate Lowenfield. And so based on that report, a declaration is expected to be made. It could happen today. We definitely know that the latest that it has to happen is tomorrow according to the orders of the recount. So Yog, I think we're going to head to a call there. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie and Mr. Yog.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Yog said just now that what somebody could do with 200 acres of land, right? You know what they could do? They could rig an election. They could rig an election. And second thing, Mr. Jerry saying that last night he's saying that we got flex with the Madam Chair that she had only 4 months to take up the job, to do the job, right? To do the things of the job. So if the Madam Chair couldn't handle the job, right? Why she take it? Why she didn't say that she can't do the job? Why she take it and then she ain't making the decisions? But what I'm saying that I hope she make the right decision. We got only hope and pray. You understand? And we got come together as one, right? And Mr. Granger, I want to know sometime if he is or hear we mouth saying. But it doesn't seem so. Thanks to you all, right? And have a good day.
Thank you very much, dear. Thank you very much, dear sir. Yog, any comments on that?
Colin is right. We need to look at the end of the day, these elections are going to be over. And, all the offices and our work on the fields where we're all working together as a people, whatever is our ethnic background, whatever even is our ethnic cause. We still would have to go back to work sooner or later and still work together. So at the end, we need to remember that, and all the animosity and the hate. And Leonard, it has been exhausting to look at the hate being spewed by some people. Like the moment this morning, I shared 2 of the paragraphs from the OA, from the CARICOM report on my Facebook page. Immediately, 2 gentlemen started to call me political this and political that, but you expect that from some of them. But at the end of the day, we have to work together. We have to go back to work together and ensure we can build a country. I want to remind everyone, when the PPP is sworn into office, ladies and gentlemen, let us ensure that this must be one of the most challenging terms they can ever have. This country has to be put first and put right. It's not going to be a walk in the park. We don't envy Mr. Ali and the challenges he has, but we got to keep calling them out. And Leonard, my friend, I am not a journalist. I don't work with any media houses. I'm independent. I've offered my voluntary services here. But I was really taken aback to see that the mainstream independent media was not afforded an invitation to attend a so-called press briefing by Mr. David Granger. That, my friend, tells me that the media houses who were not invited should form their own media association, because I could remember very clearly when Timothy Jonas went to the tent and he refused to answer one of the journalist's questions. Everybody said, well, if you're not answering the girls or ladies' question, you're not going to be allowed to talk to us anymore. What happened day before yesterday? They should have all said, if all the media houses are not invited, we're not going to answer, we're not going to come. But, Guyana is what it is. And I guess we got to move on from this.
Absolutely. I think I was told that the editors have written, or they're about to write, to the Guyana Press Association. We understand that the president, Nazim Ragabir, was one of the persons there at that press conference, which Kaicher News, Starbuck News, as well as Newsroom, and a couple of other independent media houses were not invited to the press conference with President David Granger yesterday at State House. And we'd have to take into account or put it in perspective that today, this week, these last couple hours, these couple days have been very critical in the whole scheme of things when it comes to elections 2020. And maybe within a few hours, we're going to see a declarations that could see a new president being sworn in and a government being formed in a very short while. So it's very, very disturbing. I think the newspaper, Kaicher News at least, management and the publisher are very, very upset with that scenario there. It shows disrespect to the Fourth Estate, to the media, the people of Guyana, and the readers who subscribe to them. And so that's something that had me a little upset last night too. Jerry Gavaya said that he's never seen Gildarie that agitated. I think that was the word that he used. The reason for that is that you had young reporters asking if this is something normal, if that is the way that they should expect the people in authority to be behaving. I'm not sure what was the reasons. I'm sure that Ariana Gordon, the president, press liaison, and a couple of them, maybe even Mark Archer, if he's there, I think he's moved. But somebody should explain to the media, with all respect, why something like this would have transpired yesterday, that they were kept out of a meeting, a press conference with the president. I think there's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. Yesterday. Yes, good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good afternoon, Gildarie and Mr. If you look at the name of the man, low in field, he is the lowest in the field.
And what he do, he and throw them people in under the bus, you know. He take them out in the ocean and tell them everything is good, and he throw them overboard, and then he come in. But he ain't expect that they coming back, they're swimming and coming. So now he's surprised to know that they're coming. So you watch and see what's going on with him. Okay then, thanks.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And so we are going to go to a couple of, let me see if there's a couple of texts that we could read here. Isn't it time that everybody who voted out the PPP and replaced them with the PNC AFC in 2015 apologize to the Guyanese across the world for a bad decision, including the media for knowing especially about the PNC history? Interesting. I can only speak for Kaichur News. I could tell you that Kaichur News does not have a constituency, and we do our work, and wherever the chips fall, let it will. We don't endorse any political party. This particular program, this radio station, Kaichur News, and I'm sure that Yog will speak for himself, but we don't endorse any political party. We want to see the procedures, the processes are being followed, and we report the news. That's our business. That's our line of business. That's our mandate. Yog?
Yes, Leonard. Let me put it this way. I hear what the caller is saying. In fact, a lot of people attack me because in 2014, 2013, 2011, I was so outspoken against the then PPP government. But sir, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have to do. If we have Guyana at heart, if we want to have a country that we can hand over to our children and grandchildren, we cannot be political cheerleaders. When your leaders do wrong, regardless of whether they're PPP or PNC, you have to speak out. I certainly hope that the PPP has learned a good lesson in opposition, and all the cronyism, the nepotism, all of those things that has haunted them in the previous years. I certainly hope that they do not let those repeat. And if they do, I will come and join Leonard again and call them out for it, because that's not what we want. We have to ensure that no government take these people of this country for granted. No government sees the lands and the assets of this country as their personal property, and they uphold what we trust them to do, not what they want to do. So, sir, I do not believe that there should be a regret for the PPP having lost office. I believe, hadn't they done so, you wouldn't have known this handful of persons that has hijacked APNU AFC and made them what it is. But you know, we are learning. And next election come around, we are learning again. And the PPP must not come into office and feel they will be set in stone for the rest of Guyana's history, because my sons and daughters and your sons and daughters are growing up, and growing up quickly.
Thank you very much for that. And that is how democratic nations work. We all should have a level playing field and opportunities, equal opportunities for all, regardless which race, which area you come from, what is your political standing, and of course, what's your financial standing. Gents, I have two questions here for you, Yog. The Chancellor has proven in her previous rulings to have sided sympathetically with APNU. If she refuses to swear in Dr. Ali after the declarations, what are the possibilities to correct this?
Okay.
Go ahead with
the
that
Chancellor
one.
The Chancellor doesn't have a choice. The Chancellor is I would say, I'm sure our legal friends would say it better than me, but the Chancellor would now be a servant of the law. In other words, the Chancellor has to carry out a mandate, carry out a function, and that is to have this swearing. The Chancellor Chancellor doesn't decide. GCOM chairman decides and declares, and the Chancellor just allows the oath of office to be taken, the ceremonial parts and those kinds of things.
Thank you very much. And the second question, what advice would Dr. Mahadeo give in the restructuring and investigation of Gaisuko?
Well, that's a big one. I would want to ensure that the COI, the reports coming out from the COI, is shared with the public,
I would want to ensure, look, Leonard, the truth is Gaisuku's failure was the responsibility of many persons. Poor financial planning and opportunistic interventions by politicians who saw money there for the grab, and political immature decisions that led the sugar workers go down that road. And I'm talking about politicians from both main political parties. In addition, people must remember, in the days gone by, who were the ministers that used to make personal use of Gaisuku's offices and Gaisuku's the compound staff clubs and so forth. We mustn't forget these things, you know. If you forget them, you will be doomed to repeat them. So Gaisuku has to be reassessed. There are lots of experts, but it has to be reassessed, because here is what, Leonard. Let's take Wales. When last anybody has driven around Wales? Wales is gone. The factory is, whether it can come back might be an impossibility. It has been allowed to be depleted. They have ripped it apart. They have pulled machinery out. We need to investigate probably where the machinery would have gone to, where parts were taken to. Scotland, the same thing has happened. Brand new factory. So they haven't just closed these factories, you know. They have done things to them. Now, I say that because the sugar workers are on priority list 1 for everybody in this country. Unfortunately, the next government will have a hard time making it happen overnight. But certainly, I believe that for the sake of drainage and irrigation, infrastructure work, housing schemes, the water systems in many of these housing schemes that used to be manned by SILWFC, all of those things needs to be reassessed, and Gaisuku needs to be put back, maybe in a smaller consignment, but it needs to work, and it needs to work well. In addition, we must also remember those admin managers and general managers who used to see the estates as their personal pets, and ensure that that never happens again.
Thank you, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Thank you for joining us on Elections COVID-19 Watch. We go straight to a message here on our WhatsApp is 6222222, and this is coming from a concerned teacher today, Yog. Remember, we've been talking also with COVID-19. Yes. My mind is troubled to witness the carelessness and irresponsible behavior of the fifth form students who set foot to school today. Driving around to make observation on school children during a pandemic has been very displeasing to my eyes. I've observed students after school without masks on the road, biting the fingernails while sitting closely to a friend from another school on market stands. These very students are to meet again tomorrow to interact with the teachers and other friends, not forgetting going home to their parents, siblings, and grandparents. Some students and teachers, along with their parents, have been very careful with their health and their family's health. The insensitive act of opening schools to some students during this pandemic might very well be the first dangerous act of the Ministry of Education. And it's coming from a concerned teacher. And those are very, very things. This is something that we've been talking about the monitoring of students. You can have them. This morning, I parked in front my daughter's school. It's a primary school in Diamond Yog. And there was, you going through the gate and they were washing your hands. And they put in you to stand up in lines that 6 feet apart, and so the kids were going into classes like that. We took a decision not to send the little girl to school. She's preparing to write the exams, the grade 6, in the very first week of July. The problem is you put in so much emphasis on them entering school, but there's very little emphasis what happens afterwards. So we think we have dropped the ball in a very big way. Let us hear from you. We want to hear from you. 226-7453. We want to hear from you, not only elections, but COVID-19 Watch, myself and Leonard Gildarie and Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Here, we want to try to answer your questions, queries, comments as best as we can as we prepare for a very important, a very critical show this evening on elections 2020. There's a caller online. Good evening, caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're here.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'd like to ask Mr. Mahadeo a question.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Uh, Hi, yo. Good afternoon.
Hey.
I've been looking at you at 592 and your panel last night in 592. And I'm sure that you have seen the video of Forbes Burnham when he was giving his interview to the BBC interviewer. And Mr. Granger sat down there exactly like him, and it brought chills to my spine. That he sits there like holier than thou and lies through his teeth about every single thing. He lied through his teeth about everything. How can he be in a command center where they're tallying votes and said he never saw an SOP? That is very strange because he was at the command center on Lamaha Street waving at his supporters and the tallying was going on there with the SOPs. How could he not have seen it? That is very funny. I want to know. It's mind-boggling, and I read Freddie Kissoon's article this morning, and I take his stand. So,
thank you.
Good afternoon, and have a nice day, sir.
Thank you. And you're right. If I may comment quickly, you're right. But, sir, unfortunately in Guyana, we have, let me put it this way, Leonard. Last night we said it, and I wish to repeat it, because a lot of people who are on air during the day are not necessarily on air at night. But let me put it this way. In 2015, 2014, Mr. David Granger made a statement. Let me repeat. In 2014, Mr. David Granger made a statement, and he was talking about Donald Ramotar. He said, the president is sleepwalking into a constitutional nightmare. He said that of Donald Ramotar. And I believe he wasn't talking about Donald Ramotar. I believe he was looking into the future of his own presidency, because he has sleepwalked himself and this country in one constitutional nightmare after the other, starting with the appointment, starting with the no confidence motion, going on to the appointment of Patterson, going on. CCJ called you a caretaker government. But, one constitutional nightmare after another. And then 2 nights ago to say, well, we are not running on empty, but we are running low in finance. And my question is, who eat it up? Certainly not the people of this country, because we have all had to fund this government $300 billion more in taxes over this APNU AFC government. We have all had to fork out more in taxes. We have all had to pay our share. We have all seen who's getting duty-free, who's getting house lots, who's getting this, who's getting that. And this is a set of people that criticized the PPP. They went and they mirrored, if not do worse than their predecessor. So that statement, sleepwalking into a constitutional nightmare, guess what, sir? 105 days after the elections, we are in a constitutional nightmare. And you guys want it to be worse. You now want these elections to be annulled to create another nightmare.
Yes, thank you there, Yog. Another comment from this is somebody who would have seen what transpired this morning with kids returning. Also, there's some school buses which is overloaded with school children this morning. Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Thanks for reading my comments. I appreciate what you guys are doing. However, my point is why the PNC, knowing the history, and indeed history repeated itself. I'm not a supporter of any party. Hopefully, Amerindian will soon be the next president. I listen to you every day from Orlando, Florida. I want to say hello to the people there in Florida. I hope that you guys are having good weather there. So there's another caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
You have 41 box without no documents in it, right? And if they don't count it, they will disenfranchise the voters on the low East Coast, right? Ain't it?
Yes, go ahead.
Good. So what happened to the votes in Sophia where they don't want to count because they don't have the 6-digit stamp? You know, the people in Sophia stamp it. Everything is the same problem with Woody Walker. So GCOM happen, make the papers they went in them ballot box that they accept the 41. So this election is supposed to be non-unified and call a fresh election, because if swearing Granger is wrong, if swearing Ali is wrong.
Sir,
fresh
sir.
election.
So if,
Go
sir,
ahead.
if you annul the election, who will be president? Tell me, please.
I think Mr. Gill is gone. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, to Mr. Gill, I'll say the following, Leonard. If Mr. Gill wants, or if the caller, let me not call his name, if the caller wants, let him take all of the 4,000 ballots that have been spoiled and put it towards his party and see who still won these elections. Take all, there are about 4,600 and something ballots that were spoiled. Take all of them and add it to your party total and see if you won. Sometimes, you know, the assessment and oh God.
I think we missed Yog there a little. In the meantime, let me read.
No, you didn't. I actually ran out of words. I didn't know what else to say.
Yog Mahadeo run out of words. Y'all make sure y'all keep this time, right? Okay. Let me. In the meantime, you run out of words. Some other persons. We have some text here, Yoga. Let's go 6222222. And based on what we've seen here, one of the texts. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm a parent of a grade 6 child. She turned out to school this morning. I was very uneasy with sending her out since parents were not allowed into the school compound to see for themselves what system they had in place for the children. The Ministry of Education has given us assurances that the children would be given ample time to prepare for exams. 3 weeks is not nearly enough notice, and 2 weeks at school is not sufficient for them to be ready. And this is something that's been going back and forth. We have to continuously put it out there. It's not too late for us to make some correction if this is indeed the case. And let me tell you something. What this parent is saying here, Yog, is reflective of what many parents are also saying. We have to continuously pay attention and maybe raise it. Nobody is really saying, well, we're going to hold exam in August, in July. The decision is made. Let's go ahead and do that. So, done deal. Done deal. Let's see what happens. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
I'd just like to make something. Yog?
Yes, Yog and Gildarie here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now let me tell you something. I'm not surprised at Lowenfield report. If Lowenfield could have submitted that fraudulent declaration of Mingo and give to the chairman to approve, what else do you think that he would have done? Now, Lowenfield is an old major, retired major, I should say, from the army. So you see where the connection's coming from. Right? Yeah, Lowenfield is a creature of the APNU ANC. APNU AFC is a creature of them. Because I cannot see how you going to annul 275,000 votes on you take it upon yourself to say that these 275,000 votes is not credible. Out of 460,000, that means that is only 185,000 persons voted. Credible. You get me? Now, how could you tell me your whole staff you've thrown under the bus, the whole of GCOM staff you've thrown under the bus? And we all know that the GCOM secretariat is compromised. As you could read, I just read the CARICOM report, and it confirms that. Now, how Lowenfield could get 185,000 votes and give APNU 125 and PPP C56? I had known since the 3rd to have a friend of mine, an APNU, that came in to vote and went back to America. He told us plain, he said APNU has lost the elections, but he said, you take what I'm telling you. They want to do something to see that Granger win. And so said, so done.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, yo. So I don't know where to get this thing from. You lose. Come out. Try to instead when you have instead of doing your groundwork before, you start after. Then they have rally. They go on and drink up beer and party and smoking weed and all kind of thing. I can't see what's going on.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much, dear sir. Yog, this is a comment to our WhatsApp number. Hello, dog. And this is a strange one. I don't know where they got this one from. You got to tell me if you got another name. Dr. Yogi Akarta, like Jakarta, and Mr. Gildarie. I don't know. You got another name there, but thank you very much. I'm so relieved.
You need to know to pronounce your word. I believe the caller meant Acharya.
No.
But
Say
go on.
Yogia Carter. Sorry, like Jakarta. Sorry. I'm
Okay.
so relieved to hear about the CARICOM report. David Granger's are very disappointing and disgraceful. The election system in Guyana is excellent and very robust against fraud. It is the identical system that we have in Canada. I know this because of my involvement with the Canadian Elections Commission. Please, every employee of the Canadian Elections Commission take and sign an oath to abide by the Elections Act. And so we want to discuss this, Yog. If you're part of the Guyana Elections Commission, do we know whether the staffers of the Guyana Election Commission has to sign a declaration or say anything to that effect?
Yes, they do. They take an oath. Leonard, I'll send you the photographs. People have, like the president of this country, they uphold a religious book and they take a personal oath, they pledge, and then they recite. That oath is a statutory, it's part of the regulations. They take an oath to uphold their duties. So it is not the caller is right, but here is what. They do take an oath, they do have a contract. They have a contract with their employer, but they purposefully decide to throw their holy books aside. And you know, here is how the ridiculousness happened. You go on social media now. You are seeing a lot of people are praying and praying fervently. I'm not making light of their prayers. They're praying fervently for Mr. David Granger, for God to do something to let Mr. David Granger remain as president. And there's still another handful of people who are praying to the same God to let Mr. Ali become president. So, you know, we make, you know, God now gets involved, but you know, I say this with jest. I'm making a joke when I say this. God probably looking on and having a good laugh because he gave us brains, he gave us heart, he gave us responsibility, and we don't want to do the right thing. How we want to involve God in that?
Well, we ate the apple, didn't we? Good afternoon. Why is an exam so important that it can't simply assess the student's performance over the years and give him or her grade? There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon.
Just a quick short point before I get to my real point. As I said earlier, and the point that Pakala made just now, we have to move away from this foolishness. If we were in the army, our allegiance is not to another army man, and that's what we keep doing in this country. We're not upholding the oath of office that we take, and we're not being clear to people that we are impartial in our offices. If I get an offer to do a job and I know I'm not going to be impartial, I have the right to honestly say I cannot do this job. I'm not going to be motivated by my own ego and greed for money and power. I have to be fair. Secondly, I do not know what is going on. I can't remember when last I heard from this big COVID task force that got Mr. Nagabo to be head and CEO is Armand and all these things. It seems as the message has been sent across this country that COVID is gone. Damningly enough, Sunday Stabrook showed you Mr. Light talking about a teacher who got COVID and who was all around and who shared hampers and who was here to support the GTU's position of saying that it's not safe enough. But guess what? We're not hearing from the COVID task force like they garnered. And the next one that seems to be garnered, other than an ad or two in the papers, is CDC. And if you check when all of these people start talking, is when this recount started and keep going on. So what is happening? Is COVID gone? Is the COVID task force gone out? And finally, from NCN to Chronicle to DPI, each of them, all of them should change the name. They cannot be journalists and be invited to something and see the other journalists be disqualified because of their views. So you really need a government president of the reporters, and we need a private sector president of the reporters, because this president reprimanded Mr. Jadeo, reprimanded Mr. Jonas for not wanting to talk to two reporters. And this same journalist was a part of, the same president was a part of the conference that excluded Stabrook News, Kaiser News, Newsroom, and all these places. That shows that it's not just the politicians that are complicit, all of our people, including the president of the Press Association. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have, I think, I've been told by management, by the editors, that they're in the process, if they haven't already done so, to write the Guyana Press Association to find out, one, why is it that we weren't invited, and two, what is it that the GPA president, Nazima Ragabir, was doing there, and whether she noticed that the others weren't there, and whether she would have raised the issue with the president to ask him, or ask the press liaison, Ariana Gordon, what transpired here. That is what I was told. So that is that. Any comments, Yog?
The caller is right. Everybody takes an oath, and whether they carry out. He said it perfectly. I don't even need to repeat. And with regards to the COVID task force, I agree with the caller, and you and I have said it for the past 100 days, Leonard. The problem has been that Mr. Granger provided continuous employment or additional salaries, maybe. We don't know. We have asked for who in the task force and what is their salary and how much money they're receiving. No information has been shared. But, the COVID task force has been run by a bunch of politicians who know nothing about health and health crisis management. I mean, Leonard, 2 weeks ago, PAHO WHO helped this country, it was in the newspapers, helped this country to get 4,000 test kits. How many people have been tested? What they're doing is, if you go there and say you're sick, then you get tested. But, we're not setting that baseline. This country is in a real crisis. And guess what? The caller raised my ire again. Department of Political Information, DPI, the Guyana RAG, that some people know as the Guyana Chronicle, NCN, that cannot see at all. Today's front page of Guyana RAG, what it says? The art of flaking off. Mr. Granger is sitting down and talking to this nation. The president is sitting down, front page of the whole front page, not quarter or half, the entire front page of the Guyana RAG. Mr. Granger is there talking about flaking off. Well, we certainly know who has been flaked off and who continues to be flaked off in this country.
Yes, thank you very much, Yog. And so I think I have a question. Can President David Granger, call a state of emergency? And if not, if he is not going to give up power, just asking for your thoughts.
It's even he could not have answered that question, right? He said that it's something that wasn't. I think he quoted 1900 or sometime. I don't know. But it is something that I'm sure that Mr. Granger's government would have contemplated, because he did mention it yesterday. However, I think everybody is saying, everybody except the handful of people on APNU AFC is saying that the Madam Chairman will have to make a declaration, and therefore, as long as that declaration is made, the Chancellor will have to swear in the next president. And, then they become, they would have to find an opposition leader. But, Leonard, however you turn it, twist it, I am sure that APNU AFC would have started to contemplate that. I would hate to even consider the alternatives if the APNU AFC government choose to not adhere to the declaration of the chairman. That is something that nobody can foresee what will be the outcome or anything like that. But, I'm sure, as we say every day, good sense would prevail and everybody would do what is right.
Yes, the options are very, very frightening. But if you're not joining us, elections COVID-19 watch here on Kaichur Radio 99.1, 99.5. You could get us on YouTube. You could get us on Facebook by entering Kaichur Radio, or go on Kaichur News Online, and you could also get us there with the icon. So yoga today, very, very critical day. We would have stated it. There is a meeting ongoing by the Guyana Elections Commission, 6 commissioners, as well as a chairperson at the moment, and they are considering a report from the Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, on elections 2020 that recount which would have been completed recently, and which shows that the People's Progressive Party Civic would have a lead of almost, I think, less than 20,000 there, and so therefore has taken the presidency. However, that report would have seen some observation by the chief elections officer, which has raised questions. He's saying that the election process was not credible, and so they are considering that at the moment. It's widely expected that a declaration would be made within the next couple of hours, as early as today, but definitely by tomorrow, because there is a deadline according to the orders, which would have made the recount possible. That we have until tomorrow, June the 16th, for that declaration to happen. So very critical couple hours, Yog. We have our reporters standings taken out in front of the Guyana Elections Commission Secretariat there in Kingston, and they're waiting to have some kind of comments from the official who are locked in a meeting there. We're not sure when that meeting would be finished. We have no idea what is happening in there right now. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. However, we'd have to wait. Guyana would have to wait a few, maybe a few hours, a little longer. Tonight, when we come back at room 592, Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself, we're going to be discussing the developments of what be taking place in the GCOM Secretariat there in Kingston, the GCOM headquarters, with regards to that meeting, and of course look at some other issues that would arise to analyze them. And Yog, I know that you're keeping it a close secret who you're having this evening on room 592. A lot of people are asking. You could probably tell us a little about room 592 this evening.
Well, we are going to look at whether we can actually jail those people who have been accused of fraud. We are going to have a strong look from a litigator's perspective as to the possibility, because as we said earlier, Leonard, it can be that if Mr. Granger's contention is true, Mr. Granger said that that every polling station, every polling box had a problem. And so it means the teachers and so forth that were manning these stations, they have committed fraud. So we are going to ask and assess whether they have all committed fraud. And we are going to continue to ask people to come out, stand up and speak out. If you believe the president has done you wrong, then speak out about it. We're also going to look, hopefully by tonight, we will know what that declaration is. And so we're going to have some legal advice, legal expertise as to what would be the translation of the language coming out of GCOM, if any at all. So as we keep close tabs as what's happening, and finally, Leonard, is to look at the finer print of the CARICOM Observer Report. I have already seen APNO AFC's narrative has changed, that, CARICOM did not observe 100% of the recount. There were only 3 of them, and so they couldn't have seen everything, and so then you can't trust that report. That is the new narrative that has started. God bless them for coming out, for being so creative. But, the die is cast. One day more, and we will see exactly, the caliber of the chairman of GCOM.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. I think we have some time to do a couple more calls. Let's get straight into it. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Yog and Mr. Gildarie.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm enjoying the program every day. You guys are doing a great job.
Yes.
Thank you. Everybody is calling in and they're giving their opinion, like the other callers said, to annul the results of the election. but the persons that are experiencing the hardship firsthand, we are the persons that know really what is going on right now. I am a market vendor. I sell at the Lenore Market. And yeah, it's really, really slow. People, they don't have money to buy basic food stuff, things that they have to use every day. Yes, so it's really hard right now.
And how are children? You in that neighborhood? Children, are they able to do the studies? Are they getting any kind of lessons coming to them?
Well, they're depending on the work via their the WhatsApp or what, but not every student have internet access. Yes, not everybody can afford the internet access. So while some kids have that privilege, the others don't. Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much, ma'am. Any other comments?
No, that's all.
Thank you very much for calling in, ma'am. Have a pleasant rest of the afternoon. So, Yog, here's a comment. I think this is interesting. I think this is a forced election since we've gained the election. As a young person, I've said that because of the CARICOM recount and the involvement, I think he's very disjointed there. I think what Mingo did this election happened for all the elections. When that happened, the party that rigged going to the government and the opposition filed a petition which finished in time for the next election. This all makes sense. Let's move on to the next one. Good afternoon, gentlemen. They need to get jail for the elections fraud, and this is something that you said that we are going to be discussing tonight, Yog. This elections, how do we go about making people accountable for what would have transpired? The madness. The president has no shame. He should go. No, can't read this. This is bad. What to believe anymore? I don't know what to believe anymore about Corona in this country, but for the grade 6 child's health and safety, I did not send him to school. Please. Plus, the public schools are not always well sanitized. From since before Corona, the cleaners sit and chat mostly. I'm not sure if there's a case all across the schools, but it is coming from a parent. Did not send the child to school. A lot of fears here. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Mahadeo. Why is the meeting about the GCOM this afternoon? What are we doing about the meeting?
What is it all about?
Yeah.
There is a report by the chief elections officer on the recount, and GCOM is considering that as a very critical meeting in which they are going to make a decision to make a declaration on which party would have won the elections.
Okay, when was the election, both parties were saying, all the party was saying was a fair, one of the fairest and free election ever see. And now is a long run, 105 days, and the election can't deliver yet to the Chinese people. We expect the people to do, and they start losing faith. Right? And next comment I want to make about that body rum shop them open. You feel people were tired of this election because it's more sickening than the COVID-19. Because every day is something different with the president himself and the opposition leader. And every single day they make some command. Lose the election, they invite the community, they carry some committee, and then people do their job the right way, and now they can't deliver election to the people. I need like Bingo, who started this thing, he needs to get charged with treason. He's supposed to go to jail, he's supposed to be in lock up offenses now. Because, you know why? He started all this thing, but he got started here. You know, and he just connected time with the children. And next to the children, some schools are hard here into the COVID-19 watch, but I went to my daughter's school this morning and I see whatever happened in school is to do whatever the children have to do and the teachers do a good job. But some schools not do the right thing, right? Immediate children need that education and everything is all right? Because it's a hard time and the children do a lot of time. So we should continue to do our job and do whatever we do. Anyhow, thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, dear sir. The act of treason, Yog, this seems to be something that people are raising regularly. For the sake
Correct.
of
And one of our
yes.
viewers has asked an interesting question. He's saying that if you go down the road of charging all those persons who work on election day, wouldn't that be proving David Granger right? Well, sir, that's the point. If Mr. Granger is right, let us be man enough and say he's right. And the way to do that is to investigate everybody who has been a part of this process. So if APNO AFC is saying that the district in Diamond had a problem, it means that the people who manned that station, they're accused by APNO FC of being complicit, of taking bribes and so forth. We need to investigate. It can be both Lowenfield and Granger right, as well as the agents there. One said got to be wrong. And the way to do it is to investigate it. And the second question that I have for you, Leonard, I don't know how you're going to answer this, but there's been a viewer and somebody inboxed me just now that under this COVID watch and all these financial constraints in the country, shouldn't places like the Public Service Union that continues to take their union dues from public servants, shouldn't they be given back some help and assistance to their membership across the country under this COVID time? That is something I guess we can investigate, but your comments, Leonard, at this stage, I don't know. The union might want to have its own opinion.
We will have to ask them, but that's very interesting. We have raised in the past, Yog, yourself and myself, but the role of the NDCs and the RDCs, what really is supposed to be the role that they're playing. We would have seen the weaknesses being coming out to the fore with regards to them not even, CDC not even knowing in the community who are the people that are vulnerable, that needs the help. And I was saying, and you were saying, that in every community, the NDC, by rights, they are, or by according to the mandates, they're supposed to know who are the people that need the help. By the same extension, I think the unions have a mandate to basically look out for the people. And this time here is not just about collecting money, going on overseas trips. GPSU and others, there would have been questions over the years as to the role of the unions. I know that GAO in some way, while there would have been a lot of questions with sugar and their role and everything that would have been played there, I know that they have a very serious education program that they have there for the membership and so on. Could even get some kind of scholarship for them. And they have ways of giving back. They have a very tightly run outfit there. But it's a very good question. What is GPSU and the others like NACI and others are doing? And we'd probably have to ask, maybe bring them on the program. How do you deal with a situation like COVID, which has reared its head? You would have been collecting money. You're not a profit organization, so you're not worried about that. How do you use your resources that you have? Maybe you have some monies in the account to basically make people live a little better. So, Yog, there's a caller online. Yes, caller, good afternoon. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, sir.
Wasn't it President Granger who said that the most credible interlocutor, the CARICOM team, and when he refused to renew the Carter 10 Center plan to come to Guyana? Why doesn't he do the decent thing and congratulate President Ofanali? Why doesn't he do that? I mean, what is he waiting for? If he's the one who said that the CARICOM is the most competent interlocutor, why doesn't he congratulate President Ofanali and get out?
Yes. Does it?
Yeah, one other thing. He was saying that before that he will accept whatever declaration GCOM has made. And then he got another one. He would, his latest statement now is that he would accept whatever credible declaration GCOM make. What really is it?
Okay, thank you very much. We take you off here. Thank you very much, caller. Very good question. That's the question, or those are some of the number of the questions that we've been asking and others have been asking. And Yogi, maybe if you want to repeat yourself again, the narrative has been changing.
Indeed, Leonard. And yes, look, Granger can change the narrative all he wants. The world is watching.
everybody's looking on. And at the end of the day, when the chairman makes a declaration, the chancellor will have to proceed with the swearing in of the president, and Granger will have to, whether he concedes or not, if he's not sworn in as the next president, then he's not the next president. So, it's simple to say it. Of course, we'll have to, we have all thought things were simple over the past 100 days. It hasn't been. But, over the next 24 hours, it's 24 hours. Today, tomorrow is the final 2 days in this process, and it comes to an end. Somebody narrative will have to stop, and they can now go to the court. One has to wonder, if ACNU AFC is insisting on all its allegations, one has to wonder how the chairman's mind is. Remember, the chairman is a well-experienced legal person, a judge, no less. How does she look at words that say that, I admit I did a bad job, or I'm taking accusations, I'm taking suppositions, I'm taking allegations, and based on allegations, I'm making a conclusion, which is what Lowenfield said in his report. So I'm sure that she will see right through that language. Unfortunately, here is the saddest thing that has happened. They have set up the Madam Chairman in a very, very, very terrible position, because they have not softened on their ridiculous stance, knowing they're wrong. They have not softened on their stance by Granger going yesterday to say the things he said, and they have placed that chairman on a very, very, very difficult position there now.
Yes, and I think Yog last night, who would have missed that show with Jerry Gavaya, Captain Jerry Gavaya, Nicholas Moyer, and of course Timothy Jonas on room 592 with yourself and myself. I think they would have missed out, because one of the observations that was made is a difficult position that the GCOM chair would find herself in right now, because if you look at it, half of, regardless whatever decision that she takes, she's going to be hated by large thousands of persons who believe that she did not deliver what they expected. And don't forget that the coalition supporters have been told that they have won. The People's Progressive Party supporters are seeing what is before them, the recount results. They would have seen the March 2nd election count. They would have seen what everybody else would have been seeing. So how do you tell the people something else if she comes out? So there's a couple of options, the way that she could go very quickly, Yog. What are some of the options that she could go based on the reports, based on what CARICOM would have said, that is before her, that she would have to give the deciding vote? This is the most important person in the country at the moment. The president is not important. Irfan Ali is not important. The media is not important. Claudette Singh is. What are a couple of the options that Claudette Singh has at this point in time?
Well, in front of Claudette Singh, well, put it this way, Claudette Singh will be presented by one commissioner with a scenario that, Madam Chairman, I wish to move a motion that based on the contents of Lowenfield's report, we adopt Lowenfield's report as is and declare these elections as not credible. That would be, and then the three of them would vote one way and three would vote the other way, and the chairman would have to declare. The other option, of course, is that the PPP commissioners are going to say, well, Lowenfield is not supposed to give an opinion, and they're going to move a motion based on the numbers, and they're going to vote one way, and the other three are going to vote the other way. In either of those two options, the casting vote, the deciding vote is left to the chairman. However, based on all the legal minds that you and I have spoken to in the past couple of weeks, both on this program and on Room 592, everybody has said the chairman does not have the option of annulling these elections. That option is only left exclusively to the courts. Mm-hmm. The chairman can only declare a president, only declare a winner in these elections. So the chairman would also keep in her mind the very the very explicit statements, explicit nature of the CARICOM Observer Team's report. That is saying it as it is, and I believe that even though Granger placed the chairman in a very uncomfortable position with the kind of statements he made last night, the Observer report has now put her in another position. She now has to look at what the president has asked, what her commissioners are asking, what the realities are with regards to the report, and she will have to declare a president. There's nothing else she can do.
And it is a very critical role that she's playing, hero or villain, whichever way you look at it. She's in a very tough position at the moment. So if you know,
and Leonard,
yes.
Leonard, let me just say this. Look, when CARICOM, the chairman of CARICOM came, Maya Motley, she met with the chairman of GCOM. They expressed confidence in Claudette Singh. The team leaders for the various parties, we have spoken to every single political party, and they have all expressed confidence in Claudette Singh. Up to probably a week ago or 2 weeks ago, APNU AFC, the president, Granger, keep on saying, whatever GCOM declares, I will abide with, I will accept. He expressed confidence in Claudette Singh up to probably a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So, even last night we had a discussion and in room 592, and everybody expressed great confidence in Claudette Singh. So now we are going to see, that confidence and that trust that everybody has in her. I'm sure she is going to live up to everybody's expectation and do, as we all say, the right thing.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, Leonard Gildarie, on Elections COVID-19 Watch here on Kaito Radio 99.1, 99.5. And what is the big topic today? Elections 2020. It's come down to crunch time now. The Guyana Elections Commission is currently meeting to consider that very critical report of the CEO, Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield. They're doing so at the moment. It's expected at the end of that process there that the chair, Justice Retired Claudette Singh, will make a declaration. It could come within the next few hours, but definitely by tomorrow that is going to happen. And so we are waiting on that. Our staffers, our reporters are in front of the Guyana Elections Commission in Kingston. They are awaiting some interviews, and we're going to bring them to you as soon as we get them. But in the meantime, we want to say thank you very much. We're going to be back in room 592 this evening at 7:30 p.m. sharp to get into the nitty-gritty of things and to bring you the truth. We're going to unleash the truth according to Yog Mahadeo. So you guys have been very good with us for the last 2.5 hours. I want to say thank you very much on behalf of the crew and ourselves there at Kaito Radio and of course Kaito News, and for myself, Leonard Gildarie, and Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back with you this evening.